All right, we are live. Hello, hello, and welcome. We do have a lot that we are going to be discussing on tonight's show, starting with the virtual Democratic National Convention. Will conventions ever be the same again? We have the recap. I don't know. I hope you guys have been following that. We have the recap for you on tonight's show. Trump went from refusing additional funding for the post office and Nancy Pelosi calling the House back in session to vote on the bill. We're going to be talking about that. Stimulus package is still up in the air. We're not sure what's going on with that. And joining me to discuss all of this and much more are two knowledgeable political pundits. I have Miss Shelley Henderson. She's a lawyer, former White House aide, member of the Delta Sigma Theta Sorority, and president of the National Women's Leadership Council. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And I have my good friend, Reverend Ian Harris, former candidate, New York State Senate, a software engineer, STEM ally, small business owner, and member of the Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity. Welcome to the show, Ian.
Hello, everyone.
And my name is Obi Morwe, and this is the News with Obi, where we talk about all things politics happening in our local community and around the world. All right. Welcome back, everybody. And thank you for tuning in from wherever you are. Let's dive right into it. Now, we have about 43% of Americans as of today who say they might not be able to pay their rent. And Congress up and leaves without approving the next round of stimulus, which really speaks volumes. What is the fate of the unemployed at this point in America? And Trump's executive order, does that mean anything for unemployment? I'll go with you, Ms. Henderson.
Thank you. Well, it is so egregious that Congress could not come to a decision and just basically said we're leaving without working on behalf of the American people. What the president was attempting to do, I believe, was to come in and say, Congress can't get it together, so I'm going to be the hero. But when we peeled back that executive order, what we realized was that it was a lot of smoke and mirrors. I know here in California, we are operating at a $54 billion deficit. The unemployment benefits that are in the executive order, it's asking states to actually contribute 25%, and it's already a $200 reduction from what was originally given to those who are unemployed. So this executive order didn't do nearly enough. Implementation is going to probably be something next to disastrous. And I'm predicting actually, remember, we have a bicameral system. Nancy Pelosi has called the House back, but what we need Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell to bring the Senate back and get this deal done on behalf of the American people.
Ian, what do you think about all that's going on with the unemployment and stimulus package?
There's really not much I can say that the counselor didn't, as she brought up. The executive order calls for 25% up to $400 to come from the states that are so financially strapped that their $1 trillion ask is one of the reasons why we couldn't get a congressional deal in the first place. What's this thing? You can't get blood from a stone? That's where we are. So I don't see it happening at all.
Yeah. And we need to let our viewers and listeners know that the House coming back wasn't really for the stimulus. They came back for the post office deal.
Office, right? Exactly, for the Postal Service. If I might just add one other thing, I want to say to to your listeners, and folks that are tuning in and will watch this, I think we also may want to begin to look at, it looks like for the foreseeable future, we're going to be in this space, this virtual space, and I think that, I'd like to see us begin to think about, becoming entrepreneurs. Obviously, we, work, but I think this is a good time to really think about multiple streams of income. I have a phrase that I've been saying that it's no longer brick and mortar, it's click and order.
There you
And
go.
so really, really, wanting people to start looking at other ways to bring in income, this is a perfect time to do it.
You need to trademark that. It's no longer brick and mortar, it's now click and order. You need to trademark that. Let's make that a t-shirt.
If I'm allowed to piggyback on that, 1 minute. I'm not gonna. That's a wonderful. You should trademark it. I own a web development company.
I actually got it from someone else, so I'll have to see if I can negotiate a deal with us. But
Right.
I'm certain you won't have an issue in that area. I actually own a web development company or digital marketing company, and we've seen a drastic uptick in the last couple of months due to just that. People who are either out of work or just realize that I have more time being at home because you cut down from the commute, you cut down from lunch, and to be perfectly honest, if you work 8 hours a day at your office, you're probably only working 5, so there's extra 3 hours, so you have more time. If you're lucky enough to still have your job, but if you're unemployed, this is the time where the creative juices start flowing, and all the ideas that you had for years start to come out because some states only cost $125 to incorporate or get an LLC. All it takes is $50 to start a website if you go to GoDaddy. So this is the perfect time to do just as Counselor said.
Yeah. And since we're talking about the post office and Nancy Pelosi calling the House back, let's talk about the Postmaster General. Was he really trying to pull a fast one? And all those mailboxes that got removed, are they going to take them back? Can you guys update us on that?
Well, the thing about the president is that he is so transparent. Usually what he says is exactly what it is, but I think oftentimes we are so stunned that he's doing what we think he's doing, and he's doing it in plain sight. And so, absolutely, this is one of his $1 million donors. And I can tell you, if you're donating, hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars, you have, and you're going to be able to get what the message you want through to the president. And so he installs his buddy as Postmaster General and begins to dismantle an American institution. I mean, how selfish do you have to be to say, I will burn this whole thing down so I can win? He doesn't care about our norms, our values, any of that. He's like, I'm going to win. And he tells his boy, this is what you do. And I mean, I'm 47 years old. I've never in my life seen mailboxes, 20 and 30 mailboxes on a truck. And wait a minute, you decide to implement this cost-cutting strategy in the midst of a global pandemic.
Yeah.
When unemployment is worse than it was during the Great Depression.
Yeah.
And 3 months before an election, this is your great idea.
Yeah.
Come on, we know what this is, right?
I understand. Postmaster General, is he supposed to appear for a hearing or something like that?
Absolutely. For 2 days, he's scheduled to be in front of, I believe, House Oversight Committee. And here's the wonderful thing about Nancy Pelosi. The hearings start this coming Monday, which is the first day of the Republican National Convention.
I love her. She's strategic in everything she does.
Absolutely. I love Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Go ahead, Ian.
Uh, I'm biased. I was raised by a single mother who worked my entire life in the United States Postal Service.
Mm,
Who actually
Wow.
worked at two processing facilities.
yeah.
So the whole defunding the post office and the post office struggling has always been a sensitive issue to begin with.
Mm,
Um, I'm actually not shocked at anything Donald Trump does. Got almost 4 years. The first year, yes. Second year, like third year, this is all par for course.
yeah.
It's absolutely abhorrent. However, this is par for course. But you were right. They went home over the stimulus package or the CARES Act package, rather, or not the CARES Act, but the next act to that. But they came back because of this, because they realized this is going to be incredibly detrimental to an election that's going to rely on mail-in ballots.
Right.
And mail-in ballot didn't really work as well as they planned to initially, because I know in New York, there were many local races that were affected due to ballots not being postmarked in time. I know that was the case in Texas. I have a friend in Texas who received her ballot. It was postmarked 2 days after the election. So we already had established issues. So now you add this to it. Now this is going to be an utter calamity.
Yeah. Yeah. And what advice, now that we know it's public knowledge and everybody knows what's going on with the post office and people are really skeptical. I saw a video. Someone sent out a video about when you look at the back of the ballot, there's an R and there's a D. The ones that have the R are for Republicans and the D, they're tossing the Republican ballots like, oh my God. And people keep forwarding me these videos. So what advice do you have for people wanting to do mail-in ballots? I'm going to be voting in person. No matter how long it takes, that's my thing. But people that want to do mail-in ballots, like the elderly, what advice do you have for them?
Well, I am here in California. I live in Orange County, California, and I am a permanent, what we call VBM. I'm a permanent vote by mail. So I've been the last several elections, I get a ballot in the mail. But what I do, simply because I'm such a political animal and I love the process, I walk my ballot to a precinct on election day just to kind of see what's going on.
Right.
So I'm very biased as it relates to that. This year in California, everyone, even though we're a little over 50% vote by mail, everyone in the state is going to get a mail-in ballot. And what I would say, whether you're in California or not, first of all, plan your vote.
Yeah.
Plan your vote. So request your ballot now, as soon as you can. And I believe you can go to planyourvote.com or .org. Request your ballot right now if you need to request one. Make sure you're registered at the address where you live. If you've moved, you have to re-register.
Exactly.
And then I would say, fill out your ballot as soon as humanly possible. Don't skip things, because a lot of people say, I'm going to vote for president and that's it. But there are a lot of races down ballot. Senators are up. Congress is up.
Yeah.
Congress is always up every 2 years. And so, do your vote. If you can, I would say physically take, like here in Orange County, we have the registrar of voters. I'm going to take my ballot to the registrar of voters. I'm not even going to mail it. Or we have like 100 drop boxes around the county, registrar of voters drop boxes. And so people have other options. If you have to mail, make sure you mail it far enough in advance. Otherwise, it might be worth it just to drive it to wherever it needs to go. Or usually on election day, you don't have to wait in line. You can just drop it off. But I would definitely encourage folks, look at other options. Mail it, and it's okay as long as you mail it, before the deadline. But I would say if there are other options, take them. And most of all, we want people to be safe.
Right.
If you do have to go, make sure you have your PPE, your mask, your gloves, your, like Michelle said, your breakfast, your dinner, your focus.
Yeah, that'll be me. Yeah, Ian, what do you have to add? Any advice for people? You live in New York. I'm in New York. Any advice for New Yorkers when it comes to voting?
New York is slightly different. if you find yourself in a position where you have to mail, just as counsel said, please don't wait to the last minute. Also, if you feel safer doing this, put on your mask, grab your car keys or grab your Metro card, go down to the post office. That would serve as our drop boxes in New York.
Right.
There in advance. Yeah. Also, if you're going to vote in person, and we uncovered this in the Bronx, even if you haven't moved, council said if you move, you have to re-register. Even if you haven't moved, it behooves you to go online and just check your registration status.
Yeah.
I have friends who voted in the recent election who found out that they were no longer on the roll, even though they haven't moved. They went to their polling place. They confirmed online that this was their polling place. They go down here only to be told this is not your polling place. So you want to rectify that well in advance. You have time. Matter of fact, you can go ahead and do this now. And go ahead and secure that, because you don't want to be robbed of your vote. And we see in current events that there are entities doing everything in their power, and these are people in power, to make sure that your vote doesn't count so that they can stay in power.
Yeah. And thank you for those tuning in. Before made a comment, she said she wants to vote in person and do early voting. And you heard what they said. Make sure you wear your mask and you are protected. I was at the post office today, and due to social distancing, the lines are long now. And I asked the guys at the post office, I'm like, how are you guys preparing for election day? He said that they are going to have postal workers outside with stamps and scanning and everything, so that people can just drop off and leave if that's what they need to do. So they are, getting prepared for what's to come as well. So let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about the Census Bureau. They decided to cut the 2020 count short. Why is this a problem? Talk to us, Chancellor. Why is this a problem?
It just, if we weren't laughing, we'd be crying, right? Yeah. So the census is constitutionally mandated. The census, like the Postal Service, is in the Constitution in Article 1. And so the challenge is the nuances of it. We rely on our leaders to do things right. But what we're learning is with this president, he has no moral compass. He is only interested in what is best for him. And so all of our norms, everything is being shattered. It is of primary import that people are counted for the census. The whole constitutional purpose is for representation. And so if we're saying, those of us who, do research, all of the, grant funding, everything is based on those data. And so if it's off, then the resources that we receive in our communities are going to be off or lowered. Because if it says that there's only 100,000 people here when there's 1 million, we're going to be treated in the community like there's 100,000 people. That impacts the grocery stores that come into our community. Everything about this matters, including how many representatives we'll have in Congress. So I think, call me sinister. This is strategic. Yeah. Typically, it is Black and brown communities that are underrepresented, who may not have the computer access to go online and do their census, who rely on those folks knocking on the door. And 30 less days might as well be, 30 months. That's going to make, this is a pandemic. People are harder to find. Yeah. And so there is no reason, no logical reason that this would be happening, except that this administration intends that Black and brown communities be undercounted.
Yeah. Now, Ian, you are from the Bronx. The Bronx has a huge, minority and immigrant community. What about the immigrants that really don't, for fear of being deported, and they decide not to fill out that census form?
That's an interesting question. Number one, you don't have to be a documented resident to fill out the census. They're not tied together. However, and there are laws stating that if you fill out the census and you're undocumented, the information that you provide cannot be used against you in order for use of deportation. However, there's natural apprehension in an administration where they have ICE representatives, ICE agents going to homes using DMV records, going to Home Depot, going to establishments, pulling people out. So there's natural apprehension to that. Also, the fact that we are in the middle of a pandemic, we are still in wave one. Census, the census relies on door knocking. Door knocking is hard during the pandemic. If you don't believe me, ask any political candidate, how their petitioning period went. I can tell you that from firsthand experience. And as the council said, we lost 30 days in the census. We lost 30 days in the census, and 2 weeks ago, it was reported that only 40% of the houses were accounted for.
That's exactly right.
More time. The Census Bureau actually asked for more time, not less. And council also said that she believes that this was planned. I believe this too. Why do I believe this? Because the heads of the Census Bureau are Trump appointees, just like the Postmaster General was a Trump appointee. And as the council said, the census is very important because it determines political power. It determines how we spend our tax money. It's the mechanism that determines apportionment, meaning redistricting Congress as well as state legislature. I'll use an example. I'm in New York 14. AOC is my representative. It covers a majority of the South Bronx and the East Bronx and a portion of Queens. If we aren't accounted properly, we can be redistricted so that we're no longer mostly a Bronx district, but mostly a Queens district, which is a more affluent area. It also determines on how money is spent in the communities, as council said. If you're in a Black and brown community, which I am, I'm actually in the poorest congressional district in the country, and we need X amount of money.
Right.
If we aren't accounted for, then they're going to say, well, there's not many people there, so we're not going to send that much money, even though they know for a fact there is more, but they're doing it for a reason. So it's even more important. If you have time, please go fill out the census. If you're undocumented, I understand. I understand. If I was in your position, I would be worried too. But it's important. Please fill out please fill out the census so that we are all accounted for, so that the money is given to the proper communities and that we maintain our representation and not lose it.
Yeah, those are awesome responses. I hope our listeners pay attention. If you're an immigrant, please, it's important that you fill out the census form. And it takes about a minute or even less than that. It doesn't take that long to fill out.
Right.
So, fill it out, send it out, do it online, whatever you need to do so that everybody gets everything that is coming to the community.
I want to add, I have not a friend, but there's a New York State Senator, Zona Myrie out of Brooklyn, and where you are. He said, hey, why don't you slide into her DM and say, hey, did you fill out your census? It's probably the funniest thing I've heard in a while. Hey, how you doing? Hey, would you like to go out? Hey, girl, you fill out your census? And while it's presented in a humorous tone, it shows how serious this is.
Yeah.
So please do it.
Just like asking, have you had COVID? That's a valid question these days.
Yeah.
What's
your name? What's your size? What's your sign? Do you have the COVID? You got all valid questions.
So let's switch gears a little bit now to Chicago. Last weekend, we saw young organized protesters demanding accountability from local officials, and they were met by police brutality, and police are trying to say that they were being attacked. Now, the media is where I have a concern. They keep calling these protesters thugs. Now, how important is it that the media is cognizant about how they cover protesters? They're not thugs. They're really demanding accountability. Counselor, talk to us about it, because I know you've been in that communication field. So talk to us about how important this is.
Well, you're exactly right. Words matter. And, thugs, is one of these words that was a dog whistle at one point. Now it's pretty much an opera song. It is oftentimes used in lieu of black or brown. And so what we call a thing is extremely important. So if we say this young mentally ill um, football star went into a church and murdered 9 people. But we've already called him young, which means he may not be exactly responsible for what he's done. Mentally challenged, he's got some issues. Football star letting us know, he's a good kid, right? This is what is being communicated.
Right.
But if that young man has brown skin, then he's, a thug.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so we have to. It is very important what we say things are, what we name things, the way we use words. So yes, that is one of those words. I'm just like, the war on drugs means black or brown.
Yeah.
And so we do have to be very careful, and we have to continue to educate our brothers and sisters in the media. All media persons are not well trained. Some are not trained
At all.
at all. And they're not, and they don't know, and sometimes we need to hold them accountable. And think about it. This really is the issue. These protesters, who are doing what they are constitutionally able to do, they are saying we want accountability, but we're in this culture now where no one wants to be accountable. And I'm not reverend in this setting, but I actually am an ordained minister. And I'm sure the reverend will agree with me in saying, when something is on the head or the leader, it begins to filter down into the people and into the culture. And so what we are seeing, we're seeing in a culture of people, starting with this president, who don't want to be held accountable,
Right.
who feel like accountability is an attack, right? And so the protesters have a right to hold their police officers, peace officers, accountable, and we have a right to hold the media accountable as well.
Right. Ian?
Well, as the member of the interview that's most likely to be considered a thug, I'm full transparency. I am 6 feet tall, 250, depending on how many tacos I've ate today, 250, 260 pounds. And I don't have a collar on if I'm not behind a workstation. I'm the person that gets followed in the store. But the question was, does media have to be more cognizant? And I think that's layered. The reason is, I think we ask too much of media. Media itself is, media outlets are slanted. Not every media outlet is labeling us thugs. It's the right leading media. When you're going to get that from the Fox News, you're not going to get that from CNN. You're going to get that from Tucker Carlson. You're not going to get that from Don Lemon. And then if you go further, they cater to a base, just like politicians cater to a base.
Don Lemon has changed, though. He wasn't always the way we see him. We know that.
Yes, and I'm glad you brought that up, because we didn't like Don Lemon back in Ferguson days. But people
That's
forget
how
about
he really came to. That's how he got his show, right?
Yeah.
Ferguson. Don Lemon was a completely different person.
Totally different person.
He used to get a lot of heat. He doesn't get it as bad as he used to.
Because he switched up his viewpoints.
He did.
He wasn't. You would think Ferguson was 2014.
Yes.
2014? You would think during the riots, and when Soledad O'Brien was actually boots on the ground and he was in the studio, you would think that he worked for Fox News.
Seriously, yeah. Oh my goodness.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh no.
Okay.
When I'm gonna look for those clips and I'll send it to you, Counselor. You see what we're talking about.
Yeah, Don Lemon's new to the cause.
He's newly woke.
But we're glad that you're here because you're on a very important platform.
Exactly.
So media outlets cater to their base because media conglomerates, the first aim is to get advertising dollars. It's almost that the dissemination of news and dissemination of information has become ancillary. So the main thing is they cater to the base that the advertisers want. So, and that's it. And then you have to deal. So if we're asking for them to change, I think that's a fool's errand. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think that Fox News is going to stop leading right, and I don't know, right. And I don't think that CNN is going to stop leading left. Media has a natural slant. That's just a given. I'm not saying it's right, but that's where I believe it is.
But
I think it's on us.
What can we do? You and I, Chancellor, everybody in the community, to really help debunk these notions that these protesters are thugs. I've been on protests. You've been on protests. I'm not a thug. You know what I mean? You're not. So what can we do? I know I use my platform to speak up as much as I can, but what can people in the community do when they see such things, being tweeted out by news organizations? I guess get on them on Twitter. What else can we do?
That almost skates the line to respectability politics. We can only do what we can do. We are great, we are outstanding, but as accomplished as Senator Harris is, they still call her a name that I would not dare say on the airwaves.
Wow.
We can only do so much. You can be absolutely wonderful. If they have aught against you, or they have their minds made up to not like you or not want to represent you, they're going to do what they're going to do. Denny, who was a former football coach, once said, "They were who we thought they were, and we let them off the hook." I don't expect Fox News to change. I don't expect Tucker Carlson to change. All I can do is everything that I'm currently doing, being an advocate in the community, disseminate proper information that I feel is proper, keep fighting the good fight. But expecting people to change, expecting entities to change, that's a fool's errand, and we're just going to end up disappointed. Again, that's just my opinion. That's not gospel.
Yeah.
Well, if I may, I don't think that we can make people change no more than, think about your own will, that anyone can make you change. But I do think that it is incumbent upon us to try to do our part. In other words, I'm uncomfortable just saying, hey, they're going to do whatever, and so just let it go. I still think that there is power and there is empowerment in saying, we don't agree, that's wrong. I will tweet back, that isn't true. This is what happened, or whatever. I think there is empowerment in that, not necessarily aimed at making someone change, but that's a part of what you can do. Right. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's fair. I would probably have to rephrase what I said. Not give up. Continue the path that you're down. If you're upstanding and decent and moral and believe in disseminating positive information or just being informative, because giving out misinformation is not being informative. You continue down that path, people will see. Not to go too scriptural, but a tree shall be known by its fruits. It's not by what you say, it's by what you do. And when people see your exhibition, then they say, okay, this person is of good rapport and not of malintent. So just continue just being who you are and fighting the good fight, telling people, hey, I'm not what they say I am. I'm not a thug. No matter if I have a black shirt or a backwards cap. I just didn't shave today. Forget me, counselor.
Now let's talk about Kamala Harris. She's hopefully going to be our next VP. And Trump, like we all know, has been running a racially charged presidential campaign, and he's brought up her birthplace. So he's made all those kinds of false accusations, and some media platforms, again, are running with that. Now, media, again, when it comes to covering Black women in the political spotlight, they try to cover things that are not important, like our hair, or try to cover what fashion we have on. Let's talk a little bit about that, Chancellor. This time around, who knows how they're going to be covering Kamala? Do you have any input on how they can go about focusing on her and her message?
If at first you don't succeed, try again.
Yes.
This is what President Trump and his campaign cronies are doing. They did this with Barack Obama, and now Kamala Harris. It's so ridiculous. I think Don Lemon referred to it as played out, which made me laugh. But it's ridiculous. But listen, let us not underestimate how low these individuals will go. I think that when someone shows you who they are, you better believe them. He
Yeah.
has shown us in 101 ways that he is racist, that he has an issue with women, particularly strong women, and even more so strong women of color.
Yeah.
He has been consistent in his attacks from calling his very own protege a dog after having her essentially dragged out of the White House. Let's not forget how he addressed Rosie O'Donnell, calling her names.
Yeah.
This is this man's character. And
He's
so
done a lot. Now that you talk about all those things, oh my God, gee.
and so what I would say, um, put your seatbelt on because he hasn't even gotten started yet. I believe they are already digging up the lowest dirt gutter they can find. And they like the shirts that we saw online, and shout out to her sorors, to my sorors. We got on the phone, we got online, and demanded that Amazon, Etsy, and one other platform take those shirts down. And the last time we searched today, it appeared that they were all gone.
Yes.
But yeah, I think that they're going to, because see, their challenge is she's beautiful, she is intelligent, she has an amazing record, she's accomplished, she's educated, she has excellent credentials, a great reputation. And as with any of us, she has a past. And so there is no other way that they're going to be able to get at her, besides, I believe, these racially charged and in some cases sexually charged attacks.
Yeah. Ian, you want to talk about how the media can cover Black women in politics a lot better?
Just be decent. Why can't that be the benchmark? Just be decent.
Yeah.
You couldn't call what was on those horrible shirts a woman that in front of your mother and not get slapped in the face.
Yeah.
You wouldn't let someone call your wife or your daughter that one to slap them in the face. So why do you think it's okay to call a woman or an accomplished senator, anyone this, and then have the audacity to put it on a shirt? And even if you were a decent politician and you saw this and someone was saying, hey, we're doing this in support of you. Nah, fam, I don't agree with this. I don't stand with you. The least that the Trump administration could have done was say, we don't support this. And denounce it. They didn't even do that. So shout out to the Delta, shout out to the AKA, shout out to the Sigmas, the Rose, everybody who called and got it removed. And then there are more shirts out there. I see Biden Harris shirts everywhere. Matter of fact, I'm wearing a shirt because the owner of the boutique is an AKA who pushed out a Biden Harris shirt like the day they announced that she was the running mate. And I said, hey, I need the shirt. You got any black and gold? He said, matter of fact, I do. The Phoenix some more. If you see it, you go ahead and buy it. It's a great price. But anyway, so that's number one. Trump is going full tilt racist this time. He's just leaning in because he realized he can't win this race going down the middle. But now it's just the age-old debate: what squad has more people? The full tilt racists, or that can vote for Trump, or the people of decent and reputable rapport and common sense and morality. Who's going to come out and vote? We saw who came out and vote in proper areas. Just Hillary won the popular vote, but Trump had more electoral college votes. Who's going to come out? Who's going to vote? Who's going to support Biden? Who's going to support Trump? That's number one. You asked about the media. I know I'm going to sound very cynical. We knew who Tucker Carlson was years ago. I'm 34. My first introduction to Rush Limbaugh was 2003 when I was 17, when he said disparaging remarks against Donovan McNabb. I didn't even know his background as a political pundit or a radio person. I just knew this guy is racist or anything.
Yeah.
And then fast forward 17 years in the future, he's the one who started the horrible term for Senator Harris. I don't even thinking about it makes me.
Yeah, that was.
I don't expect anything different from him. I don't expect anything
Yeah.
different from Matt Lane in the media. All we can do is tell our friends. I live in a blue state. I can go to sleep tomorrow. We're going to send the electoral college votes to vote for Biden. We're not in the swing state. So talk to your people in Pennsylvania. Call your homies in Philadelphia. Call your homies in Miami, the swing states, and say, hey, go out and vote. What do they say? Don't blue vote. Do things along those lines, because that's what we truly need in this time. And it's going to come down to the wire. We don't know when the election is going to be called due to the mail-in ballots that we discussed earlier. But all we can do is vote. We all have a right to vote. People died for our rights to vote.
Right.
Exactly.
What we can do is actually vote. And people say you shouldn't shame people to voting. At this point, I'll do anything to get people to vote.
Yeah.
I don't care if I got to stand in front of you say nanny poo poo. If it makes you to vote, then I feel better. Counselor said they're going to dig into Senator Harris's life. I'm not worried about the stuff they dig up. I'm worried about the lies. I saw something recently that said she was the prosecutor that let the BART officer that shot Oscar Grant skate back in 2010. I lived in Oakland for 2 years. I lived in Oakland when it happened, and I had to think about it. I'm like, wait a minute. It happened on a BART train, which is based in San Francisco. But it happened in Fruitville Station. Fruitville Station is in the heart of Oakland. It's in the hood. I mean, outside of Fruitville Station, there's a Popeyes and a K&G fashion store. You can't get any more Oakland than that. That's the case for the Alameda County prosecutor, not San Francisco prosecutor, which Senator Harris was at the time.
Right.
But they framed it in a way that it made sense if you just read it without doing your research. So I'm worried about the misinformation that they're going to put about her. They dragged up a past relationship with a former, I want to say he was the mayor. I don't want to say his name because I don't want to bring anything around that. They were started early with that. And then they're going to say, oh, look at her record. Her prosecutorial record. And they're going to say, oh, she's not full progressive. She's not for you guys. She's not for the Black community. And if you look into it, I said, I lived in Oakland for a while, just like I'm a New Yorker. We have a different mind frame in regards to crime. New York was bad in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. So we grew up, we were like, hey, we were probably a little bit more tougher in crime than other people. That doesn't make her a bad person. That's just how she framed the thought. And plus, it did not help. Did you not see an improvement in the crime rates? And also, didn't you talk about her how recidivism declined when she was a prosecutor? They didn't talk about all the good stuff. They talked about all the negative stuff. So we just have to buckle down because it's going to get really, really, really bad.
It's going to get really ugly. And tonight, she's going to be speaking tonight, I think at 9 p.m. Standard Time. People are going to get to see how intelligent this woman is if they haven't before. Have you been following the virtual DNCs? What is your take on that? What is the production? I'll let you guys take the floor because I have my take on it. I think it's great, but
it's interesting. The first night, I was excited. I was like, okay, let's see how this is going to go. And I actually liked the format. I've heard all kinds of, a cross section of reviews, but I like the format. The first night, I think my highlight, of course, was Michelle Obama. It's always wonderful to see her. I also like, I have a little crush on Andrew Cuomo. So
he ain't got personal beef with Cuomo. He's biased about that, so we'll let that. Even though he's the governor of his state.
But last night, I have to say, I was very. I thought it was much better than the first night. Some of the kinks I think I worked out. I love the format. I love Tracy Ellis Ross. I love the shortened speeches. And I liked hearing from his wife. I thought she was as authentic, as genuine as one could possibly be. And, I thought she just sort of opened up her heart to us and let us see inside of her marriage. And, I thought it was lovely. And so, of course, I'm looking forward to tonight, because I love to hear, an intelligent president who can form sentences and actually connect words together.
Yeah.
Um, and of course, I'm looking forward to hearing from Senator Harris. I just have a feeling we're going to get a strong speech from the former president, but that Senator Harris is going to give us a little bit more about who she is. But I think she's going to bring it. She's going to bring it tonight.
Yeah, yeah, I think so too. For me, from a production standpoint, I hats off to the producers in the background. I heard somebody that produces one of the guys that produces the Super Bowl is doing that for them this time around. So
Wow.
from a production standpoint, piecing all those together, some live, some not too live, I think they're doing a good job. Ian, what is your take on that?
Production wise, I appreciate the investment that they put into it. I'm a digital media person. They spend money on their website. They spend money on the advertising platforms. They've done better than actually baseball has, or Major League Baseball has. So that's great. Hats off to them. My favorite highlight, Auntie Kazi from last night. Kazi Watkins from North Carolina. The one who,
Yeah.
she was great. And completely honest, she had me consider going down to North Carolina and stump for a week. I still may do that. But that was my highlight. Senator Harris is going to present a closing argument today. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
She's going. If she was a preacher, she would have an opening, a close, and 3 points. And I'm going to chomp at the bits, waiting for every word. I do have one thing, and then I'm slightly progressive. I saw this on Twitter. Someone said, I forget the name. They said they wish that the DNC was more concerned reaching out to progressives than they were reaching out to disenfranchised Republicans that didn't want to vote for Donald Trump, as was the case on the first night. So that's a big question. Yes, media is doing a great job. The website is doing a great job. In the back of my mind, I'm still concerned about the progressive vote who isn't going to go out to vote because it wasn't their candidate. It wasn't their pick. That's a real concern of mine. And AOC came on, didn't even the media misreported what she did yesterday. That was DNC policy. She had to do that. She wasn't going against Biden. She had the second nomination.
She went on her Twitter and clarified. I didn't understand why people didn't get that, but
she clarified it. But the reason why she had to go in there because the media, like NBC News, had the headline that was completely misleading and didn't rectify that and didn't run another headline until 1:11 in the morning.
Wow!
Because it was clickbait. The first headline was clickbait, and they had to cater to their advertisers.
Yeah.
So that was a little alarming, but that wasn't on the DNC side. That was just media being media. No offense, Obi.
I get it. So let's talk about, kind of wrap this up with Black women in the Democratic Party, which Black women have always been the heart of the Democratic Party, but for decades that didn't translate into any kind of political rise. Now we see a surge of Black women running for office, winning these offices from, the Congress to the school board. What are ways we can really keep this momentum going? How can we get more Black women to run for office, even if it's the smallest one in the local community? What can we really do to keep this going?
Well, what I would say is, first of all, Black women in particular, need to know that they are qualified. I am the Director of Membership and Diversity for the National Women's Political Caucus for Orange County. And most of what we run into as we are out scouting for candidates is that most women don't feel that they are enough. They don't feel that what they've done is enough training to hold office. And so, sometimes I joke and I say, men wake up in the morning, take a shower, eat a sandwich, and I guess I'll run for president. And women, oftentimes the data shows us women have to be asked between 7 and 10 times before they say, okay, I'll run for office. most of the time feeling that they are not adequate. So I want all women to know, even if your job has been staying home with your kids, that is enough training
Right, right.
to run for office. And so I would say that also, what we try to do, and I try to do, is educate women. When you say running for office, people generally think president or Congress. There are hundreds and hundreds from water board. There are just hundreds of ways to serve.
Yeah.
Right, because ultimately that's what it is. And what we're saying is this, for Black women, this is our time. Sometimes you need what I refer to as a permission slip. And that is, you need a pioneer. You need someone to sort of go in that way and win, so you can see that it can happen.
Right.
And I think we have several examples of that, but certainly in Senator Kamala Harris, I think this is going to inspire another group of women. We saw quite a bit of a few Black women deciding to run after Donald Trump was elected. That continued in 2018 at the midterms, and now I think with Senator Kamala Harris added, I think we're going to see another surge in Black women running, and I, for one, am excited about it.
Yeah. And we have Maria. Maria is agreeing with you. She's saying absolutely in terms of women running for office. Ian, what do you want to add to that? How can we keep this women running momentum going?
We are a long ways from the days when Carol Moseley Braun was in the elevator with Jesse Helms and he was whistling Dixie. That happened. The numbers are this: in the beginning of the year, 122 women of color, multiracial women, decided to run for Congress. Currently, there are still 61 ballots.
Yeah.
That's an absolutely incredible number. The counselor spoke to the fact that women have to, on paper, have to be more qualified than men to even feel the idea, or feel like it's okay to even have the idea to run. My background, I knew nothing about politics. I'm a political science major. My undergrad is in computer science. My master's in divinity. And one day I was in the community and said, I'm going to run for office. And then I have friends and people I've met along the way who have JDs and have clerks and had to beg them, hey, run. Meanwhile, I work because one day I woke up because I'm a guy and said, I'm going to run. People were like, you should run. And I ran. Other women who are friends don't have that push, and we need to push them. We absolutely need to push them. There are not just women of color, not just Black women of color. AOC is a wonderful example for the Latina community. Senator Harris is a great example. Michelle Obama is a great example, even though she didn't run for office. But the fact that she is civically minded. What they say, I miss Obama and her husband too.
Right.
That really happened. So let's continue to push people forward. And also, the main thing is, if you see someone run, it's great to encourage them. It's great to send a text. It's great to retweet them. You know what's even better? Give them some money.
Yeah.
Let this cost some money. Please donate. The people have to back up because they don't have the money to go forward. So run since a grower. It's great. You know what? Here's an extra $20. Add it to their coffers, because elections cost money and people need, candidates need that money to go forward. Sabrina Fulton, the mother of Trayvon Martin, I believe narrowly lost the race for Miami-Dade County Commission last night. Narrowly, we're talking less than 5,000 votes.
Wow.
I believe this is conjecture and it wouldn't be offered in a court of law, but if she had more money, she could have reached more people, not dissuade the people to vote for her opponent, but have more people come out. Just reach out to more people so they can come out and vote for her. We're not in the business of converting voters. We're in the business of making new voters.
Yeah.
So that's where we are. So encourage them, give money. Money helps.
Yeah. Yeah, and you guys have really nailed it tonight. Tonight's conversation, I knew it was going to be a great one between the both of you. And thank you for people watching. And if you're listening to this on a podcast later, thank you for listening. So, Chancellor, talk to us about what projects you're working on. How can our viewers and our listeners support you in what you're doing?
Well, thank you. And thank you so much for having me. I really have enjoyed our conversation tonight. So I am, let's see, I am in the process of putting the finishing touches on my book.
Yeah,
It is called First Class Woman: A Lifestyle Manual for Ladies Who Lead.
nice.
And so we are almost done. If you have published a book before, you know it is back and forth with the editor.
Right.
And so over this word or that sentence. But
When should we expect it to hit Amazon, the stores, Barnes and Noble,
we
all of that?
will. It will certainly be available this fall.
Okay,
And whatever launch I have will obviously be virtual. I am also the president and founder of the National Women's Leadership Council. And so we are a professional organization of women in leadership roles across specters. And so from politics to ministry to the nonprofit world. And we also are developing an advocacy arm so that we are able to do research because we really want to begin to influence policy. So I'm excited to be adding that to the organization. I recently, this is hilarious, and then I'll toss it. I ran for office 4 years ago for the first time,
nice.
and I ran. Well, needless to say, I did not win, but I came very close as a first-time candidate, and it was a crazy experience. And I intended to make a run again, but it looks like we're going to embrace some other opportunities. But I have a Facebook page that people can reach out to me on, Shelley Henderson for California. And so we have all kinds of events that we host and things of that. So your viewers can reach out to me on my Facebook page, Shelley Henderson for California, or the National Women's Leadership Council as well.
Wow, that's awesome. And thank you for running. You are the kind of example that we need people women of color to set for others to that really want to go out there and, give it a try. So
Thank
Ian,
you.
Ian, what have you been working on?
I don't want to say anything after the counselor. I want to support the counselor.
That's a hard one to follow.
I'm working on getting a taco. That's what I'm working on. In seriousness, there are two things. We're getting ready to launch a podcast called I Ate So Boom, which is a Black millennial political and current event podcast. So that should launch the latter part of September. It's exciting. I'm working with people I really enjoy being with and talking to, and just provides another lens of the current landscape and just inform people. One of the co-hosts is someone who asks questions and generally interested in political science and how things work. And so we say, you know what, there are other people like you, so we can have this event and we can just have this conversation. Hopefully it will help somebody, because that's why we do things. We do things because hopefully it can help somebody else. And second, we're working on an initiative to create 50 websites and digital properties for nonprofits in New York, which is great on its own because we're not going to charge the nonprofits for the work, but we're also training young people interested in digital media, web development, software development, how to work in the field by working on these projects. So it's twofold. There will be nonprofits who don't have the money or the coffers to have well laid out web digital web presences, as well as getting young people who are interested real life experience that they can add to their portfolio so that they can translate that to obtaining roles in the industry down the line. So those are two things that we're working on. I'm not writing the book because I can barely write a Facebook post, but I will buy your book, Counselor, the second it comes out.
I will too. I'll definitely like to bring you back on the show, Chancellor, when your book comes out.
Thank
And
you.
Ian is a regular. Ian is a regular on the show.
Okay.
Hopefully, when you start your podcast, you're not going to forget the news with Obi, Ian.
Oh no, absolutely not. I'm not running for anything anytime soon, Counselor. I ran recently, and your crush is one of the reasons why people like me had their inner runs, but I won't go into that now. He did a good job with the COVID. I'll say that.
Yes.
Good job with the COVID. Everything else, but I like his brother. Chris is my guy.
Yeah.
But I thank you for running. It's important. First time candidates. I ran twice. First time candidates are important. It's a hard road. It's a road to run. And so I appreciate you. I felt outmatched on this show when I saw that you were when you were on the schedule for today. I said I want to pull out because I'm not a counselor. I'm not as well versed as she is. But I think you're a great role model. I'm a father of a 10-year-old girl, and I would love for her to see people like you, like Senator Harris. I have a huge crush on Senator Harris' sister Maya, so she's up there too. So and Obi, he's a leading voice in the digital media space. So thank you both for this being who you are.
Thank you. Thank you both for being on the show today. I couldn't have asked for better guests to be on the show. You guys made my job a lot easier today. All I had to do was, do the research, come up with the questions, and do everything else. But you guys coming on and really doing much of the talking and educating the people listening and watching is really all I could ask for. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And for everybody watching, tuning in, listening, I really appreciate you tuning in each and every Wednesday to watch me and my guests talk about politics and news happening in the local community and around the world. This particular segment will live on Facebook and YouTube at the News with Obi. And by tomorrow, it should be up on the podcast on the News with Obi as well. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you once again for all those that are still making comments. And be safe, be well. Make sure you go out and vote. November is crucial that we vote.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Have a good night, everybody.
Goodbye, everyone.